Hello everyone, I'm about to go live with my Patreon community, and I wanted to share a message that I will be sharing with them, which is this. So we are all learning how to navigate multiple dimensional fields. And because we're human and we are in a dense third dimensional consciousness for the most part, so most of the consciousness that we are consumed in is in the third dimension. And so what that means is that we beat ourselves up, and there's a lot of duality and polarities that are experienced. And so as we are learning how to navigate these other dimensional fields in the quantum, learning our multidimensionality, allowing ourselves, our bodies to begin to shift into higher frequencies, we judge ourselves, we beat ourselves up, and it's such a massive disservice. Because let me explain something to you, or let me remind you. Before you dropped into human form, you knew that this was going to be quite the experience. You knew that you were going to be dropping into such density, meaning the energy was so slow in its vibration that you would be disconnected from the light that you are and the knowingness of how this works. If you were capable of holding the light of who you are and remembering that aspect and remembering how this works, you wouldn't beat yourself up as you navigate through these dimensional shifts, what we call ascension. But what is occurring is that this has never happened before in human form. And so we are all navigating this blindly. And I want you to visualize this, because this is what's happening. And when you visualize this, maybe it will give you a little bit better idea of really what's going on and take the pressure off of you. So I want you to visualize a bubble, and you're in that bubble. And this bubble is the third dimensional consciousness, okay? And for the most part, most of us have been inundated and consumed solely by the third dimension, solely by this consciousness, this dimensional field. And in this dimensional field, consciousness exists in a specific way. There is a spectrum of consciousness that you'll experience in there. As we continue and begin to shift into higher states of consciousness, which means the body starts to increase its frequency inside it, our bodies start to tap into the next bubble outside of the third dimension. So in the quantum field, this is not exactly what it looks like, okay? But just for the sake of visualizing it, I want you to see another bubble outside the third dimension. And I want you to see that bubble as the fourth dimension. And then I want you to see a bubble outside of that bubble, which is the fifth dimension. And so on and so on. Again, this is not exactly how it looks in the quantum, but this is a really good way of recognizing and understanding what's going on with us. So here we are standing in the third dimensional bubble, and we are starting to expand because the light inside of us is increasing. We're getting more light, we're holding and anchoring more light, and we're starting to shift into higher frequencies, which means that our bodies, the light starts to expand. And then the next thing you know, we start to tap into the fourth dimensional consciousness. And then again, we continue to increase our frequency and we start tapping into that fifth dimensional consciousness and onward, right? But we are still in a third dimensional consciousness. We don't escape the third dimensional bubble, okay? We shift and we continue to expand, but we don't leave this consciousness. So one of the aspects about ascending is this idea that we won't be experiencing the denser consciousnesses, right? And we may not be experiencing them in the same way, but we're still going to be seeing them as we expand. We're still going to be looking out and seeing a third dimensional consciousness for quite some time. So we're going to see chaos and destruction and fears and murder and all of these humans that are not consciously choosing to expand yet. Okay, it's part of what we're doing as way showers, is bringing this bubble, 3D bubble, into literally merging that bubble into the fourth and the fifth dimension. That's really what we are all doing on this earth plane. Imagine this 3D bubble and it's moving into a 4D bubble and a 5D bubble. In the meantime, we are not escaping this 3D. So that's the first thing. How much can we allow ourselves to be in this third dimensional consciousness without judgment, without attachments, right? So as you start shifting, and without duality as much as possible, as we start expanding into the fourth and the fifth dimensions, what starts to happen is we recognize, oh, I'm designed to be in the now moment. Oh my God, I'm designed to manifest my reality in every now. Oh my God, I'm a creator being, I'm not a victim. Oh my goodness, if I surrender to everything, things flow a lot easier, right? We're learning how to do these things, be these ways in higher dimensional consciousnesses while still remaining in a third dimensional field. Okay, which means that you still are going to walk outside and have to go to work. You're still going to have to raise your children. You're still going to have to pay your bills, right? These are all things that in this now you may still have to do. It doesn't take away from the fact that you are expanding in your light, and you are shifting and tapping into these other dimensional fields. And so you're learning how to be in these other states of consciousness, in these other dimensional fields, while remaining in the 3D, navigating your 3D human life still. Challenging, right? Think about that. Think about the juggling act that this requires for so many of us. And then think about how we beat ourselves up. How we get upset with ourselves because we're still in the job we don't want to be in. That we are still paying bills that we don't want to pay. That we're still in relationships that we don't want to be in. And we are told that if we just intend and create and step into that higher version, that it will just happen, right? And that's not necessarily the case. We are learning how to navigate and juggle all of this. We're learning how to navigate the fact that we still have, perhaps many of us, a very third dimensional life. And yet I know that there are these other dimensional fields that I and other humans are tapping into, and that I have the ability to step into and be in. Yet I'm still in this third dimensional matrix. And that's okay. Can I have compassion for myself, right? Can I love myself through this navigation? There is nothing wrong with how this process works. There's no judgment around this process of figuring out how to navigate out of a third dimensional matrix and start living in a fourth and fifth dimensional matrix. There's no right or wrong. There's no good or bad. Now, we want to be moving into these higher states and be standing in them and living in them because they feel better. But if you're consciously aware of all of this happening, you're going to be moving. And the more that you can hold love and compassion for your human journey as opposed to trying to shift out of it, you see, energy has a mind of its own, so to speak, okay? And energy is what's going to pull you into those higher states of consciousness, meaning when it is time to shift out of that job, you will unequivocally know that it is time. And until that, you hold the knowingness that this is what's happening to you. You're expanding into these other dimensional fields, and there will be a time where you will not be in this matrix, living in this matrix. You'll be holding it, meaning you'll be seeing it, you'll be watching it, but you won't be living under it, right? But what we try to do is we try to push ourselves into something that we are not energetically at yet. And then we get upset with ourselves, which only holds us deeper in that which we don't want to be in. So my suggestion is hold these visions of these bubbles, the quantum. Hold the knowingness that no matter what, you're always going to be seeing the 3D. And that you are navigating this to the best of your ability. Getting upset with yourself, beating yourself up and trying to get somewhere that you're not at yet isn't going to help. Loving yourself, having compassion for yourself, honoring where you're at in your journey, and knowing, intending, and seeing yourself in these higher states, being, doing, and having what you are asking for or wanting, desiring, which is just you tapping into another version of you in another timeline, which again is just an expanded state of you, right? And another timeline is just you expanded into another state of consciousness. So you're here now and you're experiencing whatever you're experiencing, whether you like it or don't like it. The easiest way through all of this process is to honor where you're at, to hold the knowingness of where you are going, so to speak, which is always just right here. To hold that knowingness, to hold the knowingness that really at the end of the day, there's nothing you need to do because the energy, the frequency of you will bring you there. The energy does this. Ascension is done through energy, not through ego. And ego is the aspect of us that wants to take control. It wants to lead the way and guide us into it. The more we let go of the ego trying to control this process, and the more we fall into that heart-centered space and just love the hell out of ourselves and every other being on the earth plane as much as possible, holding the knowingness that you are absolutely unequivocally going to be where you see yourself being in another now moment, and you're not in charge of that now moment. You're not in charge of deciding when that's going to be. That is the power of ascension. That's the beauty of being and walking through the quantum field. That's how we do it. It's not easy, right? Because we are learning. We're basically remembering how this works. We're remembering how to do this. Because remember, the soul essence that you are, the light being that you are that dropped into human form, knows all of this. It knows how this works. The human aspect, the ego personality, is drenched in density, and we forgot. We forgot. So don't beat yourself up that it's not happening fast enough, that you might not necessarily be where you want to be, that you're in relationships that you still don't want to be with, that you're doing things that you still don't want to do. You are moving through the quantum field. You are expanding. You are moving through those bubbles, and then you're coming back down, and then you're moving. You're learning. It's like watching a newborn baby or a baby start to crawl and then start to walk. You wouldn't yell at the baby and say, you should already be walking. Why are you not walking? Get up and walk. You would honor the process of the human body teaching that human how to walk. The body teaches the human how to walk. Right? The body is going to lead you through this ascension process. The body is. So be embodied, love the hell out of yourself through this. Hold the intention and knowingness of where you're going, so to speak, what you're going to be doing, having, being, and then honor where you're at. Honor it. We're all doing this. None of us have done this before. None of us have done this before. We're all navigating this blindly. Thank God we have a large collective doing this. And you are deeply, deeply loved. You are deeply, deeply honored. You are deeply seen for what you are doing right now. And have compassion. Wrap your arms around yourself. Give yourself a kiss. Give yourself a hug. Squeeze yourself. Thank yourself for being in human form. Thank you for being here.